in this situation here, I chose at this moment to recover from this cancer because I have something bigger to do.
Right. Can you
So I
walk
look
us
at
through
it that way.
the cancer?
Hmm?
So what happened with regards to cancer? When did this happen to you?
Well, the cancer, I learned when I was 52. When I was 52, I learned that I had this marker for multiple myeloma, which is a rare blood cancer, and it was devastating. It was 2015, and I learned that everything stopped.
Hmm.
And I spent from that time until last year when this this less aggressive cancer, which is lymphoma, showed up on my spine. I spent from 2015, 2016, back and forth in doctors' offices, getting tests and stuff. I had to be tested every 3 months and then every 6 months. And then through the pandemic, I couldn't get tests done anymore because of what was happening with the pandemic. And when everything cleared, finally went back to the doctor and they did. And well, I didn't go to the doctor. I just could stop, suddenly couldn't walk anymore.
Oh gosh.
One day, I couldn't walk. Over a space of 6 days, I was becoming paralyzed. And I had to be rushed to emergency surgery because they found this massive tumor on my back. It manifested on my back.
Right.
And I looking at it through a Buddhist lens. The fact that it manifested on my back to me represented the burdens, all the sufferings and stuff that I carried for so long through childhood. I carried that, and it all came together on my back,
Right.
you know. So
Yeah.
cancer is just not just the physical manifestation. It has to do with the emotional, psychological, maybe the stuff, the exposure to certain things. It's all this stuff,
Yeah, for
the
sure.
stress, the resentments,
Hmm.
all that wrapped around my spine.
Did did you seek treatment all in the US? 'Cause I know it's pretty expensive there. So were
Yeah,
you on your insurance?
I didn't. It just happened over a space of 6 days. I suddenly couldn't walk. I started losing mobility, and I remember it. It actually was coming up. For some reason, I had forgotten, and I thought it was going down, but the coldness was coming up from my feet. At one point, I remembered saying it was coming down from under my breast, but no, it was coming up from my feet. And I was beginning not to be able to walk. And I kind of was around, say, that was the end of 2021. I was beginning to feel really sick. I was sleeping all the time. I was putting on weight, and I suddenly couldn't eat anything that had histamines or citric acids. And most foods have that. So I could hardly eat
Mm.
anything, only meat. And even meat had it. I had to order special meat from farms that had prepared the meat in a certain way that the histamines wouldn't set in. It was very weird.
Right.
And it just suddenly, one day I woke up and it towards the end of those 6 days, around a year ago, it was March 25th, 24th, I tried to go to the bathroom and my bladder broke as I was trying to go, and I couldn't control my bladder. And I it was early in the morning. I walked, dragged my leg. Had to use a cane, and I dragged myself to the bathroom, and I sat there on the toilet, closed toilet, for from 4 to 7 in the morning because I was like, how am I going to do this? I have so many things going on in my life. My daughter has health issues. that I've been taking care of her for so long. My husband and I, we were debating if we should separate or not. Uh, we had bills, we had all these things that were going on. It's like, how the hell am I going to do this? I was worried about insurance, if I was going to get a doctor that looked like me from 4 to 7 o'clock in the morning on the 24th of March last year. And then all the time, the coldness kept coming, creeping up, creeping up, creeping up. And by 7 o'clock, I realized I can't do this anymore. And I tried to stand up and crash to the floor. And I called my daughter and told her, get everything ready. I have to go to the hospital, call the ambulance. The ambulance came and they had to take me out in a special chair. And I got to the hospital. They did all these tests and said, you have a massive tumor, all within in less than 24 hours.
Mm.
We have to immediately take you. You have 50% chance of paralysis.
Wow.
And a couple of weeks before that, I was diagnosed with panic disorder, agoraphobia, and PTSD. I learned all that a few weeks before from my therapist. So thankfully that I knew that I had that diagnosis. So when the panic and stuff set in, I knew, okay,
Right.
I know.
Yeah. I know
Thankfully I
exactly
had that
what's
diagnosis.
yeah.
And my daughter was diagnosed with the same thing at the same time too. So
My gosh.
I was able to find presence and by chanting and using the tools that I had pulled together over the years, included a system I developed called Clarity, Awareness, Presence, Acceptance, and Gratitude. I was able to bring myself into presence, and I was put myself in that on that lotus flower where, although I was out in all this mud where they were telling me I had all this cancer, but I was on that lotus flower, and that wasn't going to touch me inside. And I visualized that throughout the whole time I was in the hospital, throughout the operation. And I utilized Louise Hay's self affirmations and I just Eckhart Tolle's presence, the power of now.
Right.
I just utilized all these things and I just stayed present. And no matter what was happening, I just went with the flow and I was like, I'm going to walk again. I'm not gonna.
Mm.
And then when I came out of the surgery, my legs started to move and this one of the doctors told me, "Wow, this you're in the 1%. This is rare. This is you're in the 1% to do this. We got to rush you to rehab."